You're watching The Legal Breakdown. So, Glenn, all eyes are on Florida Judge Aileen Cannon, where we are awaiting a trial date in the illegal retention of classified documents and violations of the Espionage Act case. There was a hearing today that we had spoken about yesterday that everybody was kind of waiting to see when the trial date would actually be set for. What happened at that hearing?
Not as much as I would have liked to have seen happen, Brian. There was a lot of talk about some of the technicalities. There are still a number of motions that are outstanding that are going to have to get litigated. There are some complexities when you're dealing with classified information because you have to use euphemisms for some of the actual information in the documents that Donald Trump stole and unlawfully retained and obstructed justice by refusing to give back once they were subpoenaed by the grand jury. Now, we came into this hearing today knowing that many months ago, Judge Cannon had set a trial date of May 20th. The other thing that's happened in the intervening months is we know that Donald Trump is now in the chute to go to his first criminal trial beginning on March 25th up in New York in a state case. But as everybody entered the courtroom today, literally or figuratively, there was still a May 20 trial date in play on the books. So there was some discussion about trial dates, but I will say it was not all that satisfying a hearing based on the reporting that has come out.
Well, do we know when she is going to be making a decision? Do we even if we don't have a decision itself, do we know when that decision might be made?
Yeah, I think we know exactly nothing at this point. The reason this was such a curiosity, and I've been through lots and lots of status hearings over the years where we're discussing trial dates, and it becomes of paramount importance when the judge actually sets the trial date because everything you do will then sort of depend on the trial date. You will schedule literally everything you need to do in preparation for a trial based on the trial date the judge set. So, as I say, we went into this hearing today with a May 20th trial date. We also knew that Donald Trump had a trial in New York that would probably last to maybe late April or maybe early May. So we were expecting that we would get a trial date set. Now, mind you, special counsel Jack Smith had proposed a July 7 trial date. And it feels like the judge was pushing Donald Trump's lawyers at some point to offer some kind of a straight-faced, realistic trial date. Here's what they ultimately did. In this hearing today, they were, I think the legal term is pissing and moaning. I think that's an accurate characterization based on the reporting I've read about how there's just no way they can go to trial before the 2024 presidential election. Surprising, right? But kind of under duress at one point, they were like, look, if we had to go to trial, maybe August 12th. But here's the thing, Brian. During the course of the hearing, when Jack Smith was saying, hey, this is great, we say July 7th or July 8th, they say August 12th, looks like we can all agree that the case can go to trial this summer. And that's when Judge Cannon started to express what was reported as skepticism that a summer trial was possible, which I find beyond curious. I find it pretty damn infuriating, particularly if Donald Trump's lawyers threw out there, even if they had to be pushed to this point, threw out there August 12th. If I'm a judge, I'm probably going to split the difference between July 8th and August 12th and say, okay, August 1st, trial date. Anything else we need to accomplish? She didn't do that. She didn't answer the question. She didn't set a trial date, basically doing another favor for Donald Trump, because now this question will linger. For how long, we don't know. But as of right now, it looks like we don't even have a trial date in the Florida case.
Well, yesterday we spoke about how curious it was that Trump's lawyers actually offered a very reasonable date of August 12th to begin the trial. It seems now, I mean, this is just my opinion, let me know if you agree with this, but it seems like the reason that they were willing to offer that date was because at the end of the day, they see who they have in Judge Cannon, and she kind of prove that out by saying, like, sure, you can give me August 12th as the trial date, but I know what I'm supposed to do. You all know what you want me to do. Sure, throw out that August 12th trial date. I know you're doing it under duress. I know you don't really mean it. I'll take it from here.
August 12th, Judge. Wink, wink. You got
Right.
me, Aileen. I mean, that kind of feels like what's going on here. We don't know it for a fact, But boy, based on Judge Cannon's track record, dating all the way back to when the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals had to smack her down in really an embarrassing ruling saying that she abused her judicial discretion by doing something the law didn't even allow her to do to the benefit of Donald Trump. That's a pretty dramatic criticism and a pretty damning indictment of Judge Cannon's lack of impartiality. But this has been her MO all along. And for whatever reason, special counsel Jack Smith has opted never to file a motion to try to have her removed or recused from the case. I don't suspect that's going to change anytime soon, but boy, I would love to see that issue litigated in the full light of day and have an appellate court say, yay or nay, she is sufficiently impartial, or she has proven that she can't be sufficiently impartial. She should be removed, and a completely fair, impartial, and independent judge appointed to preside over the case.
Well, that was actually my next question was, Jack Smith obviously saw some benefit in not poking the bear too much by seeking to have her removed. And of course, we've spoken about the fact that, let's say he did seek to have her removed from the case. It fails. Now you're on really hostile footing with the judge before the trial's even begun. So I could see how this could backfire on him. But at this point, I mean, doesn't it seem like any potential disadvantage by seeking to have her removed is far outweighed by the fact that she is so blatantly doing Donald Trump's bidding anyway, by giving a delay that is even beyond what Trump's own team is asking for?
Yeah, so Brian, on the one hand, you have to know your audience, right? You don't want to antagonize the judge. But could Judge Cannon be any more antagonistic toward Jack Smith, his prosecutors, his team, or the case against Donald Trump that he has brought? I don't think so. And here's where I think Jack Smith might reevaluate whether he should file a motion to recuse. What we now have are the parties basically agreeing that a summer trial is doable, is workable for everybody, with Jack Smith saying July 8th and Donald Trump's lawyer saying August 12th. And Judge Cannon says, I'm skeptical we can make a summer trial work. Now, she's even doing more of a favor for Donald Trump than he has asked her to do regarding setting this trial date. To me, again, we are back where I think her impartiality might reasonably be questioned. And I use those words precisely because that's the federal law. The federal statute says a judge shall recuse himself or herself if their impartiality might reasonably be questioned. Her impartiality can easily be questioned reasonably, and therefore I think Jack Smith should at least reconsider whether it's time to file that motion.
Well, at this point, though, just as pushback to that, I mean, it's a little bit moot. At least with Judge Cannon, there still is the glimmer of a hope of having this trial start before the election. If he is successful in any bid to have her removed from the case, then you'd be back at square one, basically, no?
No, you wouldn't, because a new judge would come in and would pick up exactly where Judge Cannon left off. When I've had judges change midstream, not mid-trial, but certainly in the run-up to trial, and it really doesn't delay the trial even by one day. Judges are expected to come in, read themselves in on what the prior judge did, and pick up exactly where the earlier trial left off. So that
it's like surgery in a sense. Like you can't sew the patient up if he's sitting on the table with his liver out, right? You just got to pick up where the last surgeon left off.
Yeah, of course, I wouldn't even trust Aileen Cannon to freeze off a wart, quite frankly. But yes, yeah. I think that's an apt analogy.
So at this point, do you think that it would be reasonable for Jack Smith? Do you think that the benefits would outweigh the disadvantages of Jack Smith moving to have her removed from the case by appealing this to circuit court?
I do, because I think it's important to air these issues in the full light of day. Let judges decide whether there's enough evidence to have her removed or not. Let the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals ultimately make that decision. And if it's a fact-based decision, after fully airing all of the facts, the law that applies, and taking into account the legal arguments of both parties, prosecutor and defense, I mean, it's a more fully informed opinion, and it is one that hopefully we can all accept as reliable. But, if you don't even bring the motion, we will be talking about Judge Aileen Cannon's lack of impartiality really for the rest of time. It'll be in the history books written up as, it really feels like this was the wrong judge to preside over a case involving a defendant who appointed her, gave her the cushiest job imaginable, life tenure on the federal bench. You're basically beyond touch. I mean, it does feel like a conflict.
Well, that's perfectly put. Of course, we'll see what happens on that front, and hopefully there will be, some movement in that direction. But time will tell here. So we'll stay on top of this case as soon as we have any developments. For those watching right now, if you want to follow along, please make sure to subscribe. The links to both of our channels are right here on the screen. And again, we'd really appreciate for both of our channels, if you're not yet subscribed, if you could hit the subscribe button. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
And I'm Glenn Kirshner.
You're watching The Legal Breakdown.